And welcome to the Daily Space Weather. We've got a small increase in sunspot number today, represented by this active region right down here. We've also got some coronal mass ejections and plenty more to cover on today's Daily Space Weather. And congratulations on realizing that the Smash News Network least busted name in news exists. We're frankly surprised. I would note this gigantic filament up here, as well as some large sunspots moving right into the exactly earthly facing zone. We've also got your 171 angstroms wavelength. It is the house favorite. It shows the lower corona. And that is extreme ultraviolet radiation emitted by ionized iron. We'll show you some more imagery here in a moment, such as the yesterday plus today imagery of SDO. That's the SDO Continuum, and that's enough to make you put on your sunglasses. The area to watch is the area of greatest activity right here. Several sunspots rapidly forming and growing there. 3315 is the name of that sunspot group. There it is in colorized magnetogram along with the rest of the Earth-facing solar disk. You may be wondering if these active regions up here are sunspots, and well, they were not when we did show prep. Largest flare of the past 24 hours happened while we did show prep. We'll get to it. First, let's do a rundown of our paid endorsements. So check out the Hemp Lucid link below the video. You will find an entry that says enter the promo code SMASHOMASH. Yeah, enter the promo code SMASHOMASH to save 10% on your checkout for your Hemp Lucid orders. So whether you're picking up mushroom gummies, stress stacks, Delta 8s, full spectrum CBDs, pet CBDs, THC-free products, body balms, etc., make sure you enter the promo code SMASHOMASH to save 10%. You can also shop via our links. You'll find them again below this video in the description, as well as on our homepage at smashomash.com. It looks a little like this. It looks exactly like this. We launched it in 2019 in response to censorship on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook. We got banned for no reason at all. And then we watched their share price decline through December of 2018 and launched smashomash.com in 2019. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. And let's see what's erupting in terms of volcanic activity. Starting out with Etna, a great image there of Etna. That's just from last night. Emitting some ash and indeed lava. So Mount Etna continues to erupt. Some tremors located beneath the crater at Etna. Sakurajima also erupting. It's a flight level 070, 7,000-foot ash plume over Kyushu, Japan from Sakurajima. Suminosejima, located in the Ryukyu Islands, 5,000-foot ash plume as Suminosejima explodes. It's a flight level 050. Luatolo, effusive explosion happening there. Effusive explosive eruption. And it looks like it's about a 2,000-foot ash plume there. Semeru exploding, flight level 150 over East Java. Popocatépetl exploding, flight level 300. That's the world's largest volcano at the moment. The most significant eruption there occurring in central Mexico, producing a 30,000-foot plume of volcanic ash, likely fertilizing the area to the typically the north and east, especially to the east of Popocatépetl. Nevado del Ruiz exploding in Colombia, flight level 210. Ravenador exploding in Ecuador, flight level 150. That's a 15,000-foot ash plume. And Sabancaya also reporting continuous emissions. Next, the global seismicity. There's your 90-day bar graph on which earthquakes have been occurring for the past 90 days, obviously, the 90-day bar graph. And as far as the quakes, the largest quake was a 5.1 in China. Yeah, China. China quake from China. Okay, China. Probably performed with stolen U.S. intellectual capital. Okay. Anyway, we'll report quakes over a 5 magnitude. There were quite a few quakes around the Pacific Rim there, but no large quakes. So Papua New Guinea had a 5.0. That was at 1300 Universal Time yesterday afternoon. Indonesia had a 5.1. That was at 1504, about 2 hours later. Philippines had a 5.2. That was at 0 dark 44 this morning, 44 minutes after midnight Universal Time. I could have sworn I saw a China quake. China quake from China. All right, maybe not. Okay, I stand corrected. Anyway, those are the quakes on the list for the past 24. And if we've missed anything, let us know in the comments. So it's time to get back to space. Yeah, space. A frontier. These are the voyages of the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux is at, I don't know, 155 solar flux units. So a bit of a downturn since yesterday. Right at this support level. So you may see various different upward supports here around 155 solar flux units. You can see that right there, having just broken out of it and now dropping back down to 155. 155 solar flux units is the current 10.7 centimeter radio flux number. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. Let's see, forecasting a little geomagnetic unrest for a brief period later this evening. From coronal hole high-speed stream effects. We haven't seen the coronal hole high-speed stream show up yet. We could see as much as KP6+, depending on the magnetic fields. At the moment, things are geomagnetically calm. We do have a slightly elevated solar wind here at about 569 kilometers per second. Let's take a look at Earth's magnetic moment from space. There are the past 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure out to about 12 Earth diameters. You'll see things are fairly homogeneous here. We do have a high-speed solar wind, but we haven't seen a second pulse from coronal holes yet. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. And by the way, if Earth's poles were actually flipping, you would see this turning into quadrupoles and octopoles and so on. We don't see that because many of us don't believe that Earth's poles are in the process of reversing at all. So we show these 4-hour clips daily on the channel to reinforce the fact that Earth's magnetic field is perfectly fine. There are the past 4 hours of changes to it at the ground level. Next, the KP index currently at 1.66. Again, it's a geomagnetically calm condition here. Real-time solar wind showing solar wind speed at about 560 kilometers per second. Solar wind density here very diffuse at 1.2 protons per cubic centimeter. We are still waiting for a more significant pulse from a coronal hole. Maybe it's going to miss Earth entirely to the south. I would be surprised if we did not see an uptick in the solar wind density today, showing the arrival of another coronal hole high-speed stream. Perhaps a stronger one from a very well-defined coronal hole that we will show you momentarily. First, our GOES magnetometer. The GOES 16 and GOES 18, they are geosynchronous near equatorial satellites, and nothing major happening there. Next, our top view ecliptic plane field plot. This depicts the heliospheric current sheet and its plasma polarity. Its magnetic polarity, right? So Earth is currently in a South Pole-oriented current sheet, and there's a North Pole current sheet headed this way. We can expect it to arrive in about a day or two. And if we do see that sunspot in the southeast grow rapidly, it could be here as early as later today, or perhaps by the time tomorrow's daily space weather video comes out. Also, another important thing to note here that I meant to talk about in yesterday's video but completely forgot. Look at the North Pole magnetism here. You see that North Pole coronal hole there? That needs to leave the North Polar heliographic area. And it's still hanging out there. Another indication that we are not yet at solar maximum. Here's a brief look at the line of sight field plot. Here the sun's B field is depicted in blue, north polar field in green, south in red. Also the gong magnetogram there depicted in grayscale. Lots of active region there in the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk, with more looking like it's rising. And let's move to coronal holes. We've got some North Pole-oriented coronal holes rotating in here, prefacing the arrival of that North Pole current sheet. There you can see on the latest image, North Pole coronal holes there rotating in the southeast. So here's our SDO 211 angstroms wavelength. These coronal holes down here should become more well-defined in the coming days as that bumpy corona is obscuring some of those coronal holes. Our sector boundary crossing is right about here. And again, a little bit of a late arrival of the coronal hole high-speed stream from this coronal hole group right here. We are surprised that we haven't seen a better signal from that coronal hole system. Next, let's move to sunspots. And we did have 3315 get a name. No surprises there. That sunspot has grown a bit. Let's take a look at that in its SDO Continuum detail. So rapid growth of that sunspot group there below the Earth scale. You'll see that suddenly gain a lot of ombre there. We'll see an uptick in the sunspot number and likely in the radio flux as a result of that. So you can expect the radio flux to come back up above 155 solar flux units. And also the sunspot number should increase quite a lot, as you may see a lot of dark ombre forming. So rapid growth there happening in the southeast. And next we'll talk about energetic particles and solar flares. So here are the energetic particles, and no spikes there. The proton flux remains flatlined. And the largest flare of the past, of today at least, occurred while we did show prep once again. So seems like a common thing here. And it was an M1.02. So a minor M-class flare there happening while we did show prep. Here is the past 24 in SDO 131 plus 94 angstroms. These are the wavelengths that we use to view solar flares. These are not directly viewing X-rays. This is still extreme ultraviolet light. However, the 94 and 131 angstroms wavelengths on the SDO AIA instrument, they take more images, 5 times as many images per minute from the other wavelengths. They're specifically designed to view solar flares. And here's a little close-up for you. Again, note that region in the southeast. It is the new, shall we say, rising star of activity on the closest star. By the way, if you didn't see yesterday's video, make sure you check it out. There was a cosmic ray report in yesterday's video. Anyway, moving right along here, let's take a moment to see what's going on overhead. The sun here just peeking up over the horizon over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. That is our star chart. If you want to make your own, head to skyandtelescope.org. It's the one we currently use. I like it. And you may see the Pleiades up there. Although probably not, because, well, it's now light out. So anyway, here's your solar system forecast. This is where things are located today on the 24th. We'll advance this 1 week. There's where things will be on May 31st. We'll have a gibbous waxing moon as Mercury swings around to the gas giant side of the solar system, leaving terrestrial planets behind and joining the gas giants on the opposite side. Next, looking at coronal mass ejections. We certainly had some. One looks like a halo, but it's not earthly directed. So right there you can see a bit of a halo coronal mass ejection there. That is the kind that is associated with Earth-directed coronal mass ejections, but that one's on the opposite side, not directed toward Earth. Those are yesterday's frames. Here are today's frames from George Mason University. And things have been pretty calm here as far as coronal mass ejections. Let's move on to look at the LASCO coronagraphs. We're going to show some fantastic composite imagery of those here in a minute. And there's a bunch of missing data there. Those unfortunately only showing a few hours of today so far, so let's move on to look at stereo A, which is, by the way, very close to the Earth now and not providing a lot of extra angular detail of coronal mass ejections. It's not very helpful in calculating trajectories. There's stereo A on the left and the SOHO LASCO C3 coronagraph on the right. We can expect to see coronal mass ejections here continuing, as there is a lot of plasma suspended by magnetic fields out in the corona right now. Expect coronal mass ejections. There is an unsustainable amount of plasma hanging out. All right, so before we get to filaments, let's move on to our custom Helio Viewer videos. You can see that great coronal mass ejection there looking like a halo. Let's get a little closer. How about one step closer? There is some action happening down here in the southwest also. So this is another area to keep your eye on. And when I say eye on, well, pardon the pun. Yeah, that area right there features a massive filament just ahead of that coronal hole. And we've seen some plasma moving around in that area in the past few hours. So that is something to watch also. And let's take a look at filaments, which is kind of where we started out. Huge filament up here in the northeast. That is currently the largest filament. That one right there is certainly noteworthy. That is the ground-based hydrogen alpha telescope at El Teide, Spain. This is a great one for people who claim space is fake. Yeah, people who claim space is fake, this is a good one to show them. You know, since a lot of the stuff that we show on the channel, a lot of the solar features, you would be able to see these from a ground-based telescope that you could buy for like $200 with a solar filter and see a lot of the features yourself. So that's one of the great arguments that we hear constantly. Space is fake. The sun is fake. Yada, yada, yada. It's so fake that you could see it with the naked eye. Please do not look directly at the sun unless you have the proper light filtration. So anyway, huge filaments here continue on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. Here you can see them in great detail from the GOES 16 SUVI. And that recent M-class flare was from these active regions right here, these large sunspots on the northern portion. Let's shrink that down a little bit. There's the full disk view for the past about 2.5 hours. We've got some more SDO videos for you as well here. So here is the past 24 hours in SDO 171 plus 131 angstroms. Again, those rising active regions there in the east, those are not yet sunspots. We don't see any umbrae. And last but not least, we've got 304 angstroms SDO by itself. And let's get the bonus features. To see if we've got any charging hazards. Actually, before we do that, take a moment to become a member of the Smash Team. If you haven't, smashomash.com/Smash Team is the official subscription services site of this channel. So thanks to our Smash Team members, you are increasing our capabilities and increasing the probability these videos will continue to exist, remain publicly visible, and free for all to view. So thanks for supporting the channel. There is a bronze level, which will cost you exactly $0 per month. There's also a silver and a gold level for additional content and all kinds of additional features for gold Smash Team level members. The best value is the annual paid-up subscription, smashomash.com/Smash Team. Support the channel that way. And let's get to our satellites community dashboard here. And charging hazards are currently non-existent. So no worries about satellites there. Satellites are enjoying clear sailing. GOES electron flux here depicting warning levels. Maybe a little bit higher than we would have expected, but we were expecting a coronal hole high-speed stream impact by now. We haven't seen it, and so you can see those electron levels are indeed climbing. So the GOES 16 and GOES 18 both made it into warning territory there, and they are measuring the electron flux at the F layer of the ionosphere using radiography from their much, much higher geosynchronous orbits. There's the one-year graph to put all of that in context. That is a little bit higher levels than I was expecting. Let's see what NOAA was expecting. And NOAA was expecting actually even higher levels than this. So I would say if we do see indeed a coronal hole high-speed stream impact, we can expect to see these crater and be well below their green boxes, which are the forecast. And let's move on to the F layer of the ionosphere. Again, this is the location where those free electrons are measured, the greater than or equal to 2 mega electron volt electron flux. This is going to be the vibrational frequency of that layer, the F layer of the ionosphere located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. Now, we did see some major low-frequency anomalies happening yesterday in the ionosphere map. Today, still lots of low-frequency anomalies. And we'll show the anomalygram to highlight that for you visually. So there is the anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. And you will indeed see a lot of red here. That is low-frequency anomaly. So lots of low-frequency anomalies there in the Southern Ocean, the Southern Indian and Atlantic Oceans, also the South Pacific. Here's the latest image. That's 1030 Universal Time Ionogram and 1030 Universal Time Anomalygram. Total electron content depicts free electrons all the way up to about 12,500 miles of altitude. By the way, the GOES 16 and GOES 18, they're located way up here at like 23,500 miles of altitude. So they're way out here by the outer portion of the outer Van Allen belt. Your GPS satellite is at the inner portion of the outer Van Allen belt. And here is the total electron content forecast. This will depict the most likely places to see GPS errors, and we are seeing quite a lot of GPS errors here, despite having high levels of electron flux. So that's not completely normal. That's not the most normal thing you'd expect to see there. Some major GPS errors there in perhaps unlikely locations. That's the total electron content on a worldwide basis. We'll also show the North American total electron content anomaly from the 10-day average. This depicts high electron content anomalies in red and low electron content anomalies in blue. No major anomalies over North America on that map. We'll close out the space weather segment with the latest SDO intensitygram and the latest colorized magnetogram. Let's first take a look at the eastern limb here. As I said earlier, I don't think there are any sunspots. Those active regions not showing any dark ombre. But this sunspot here is certainly quite interesting indeed. Sunspot 3315 has grown rapidly since yesterday. It is, well, it's certainly beta gamma class, as it does have leading South Pole ombre, as you can see there, and trailing North Pole ombre. I would say that's just beta gamma class at the moment. If there are any deltas in there, they are very minor. But that does increase the likelihood of solar flares a little bit. The most active region that we're seeing is still this one right here, right in the Earth-facing portion of the northern hemisphere there. Let's show that in umbra also. Here's the full view. So this one is certainly beta gamma delta class still, and it still is the most likely place to see major flares. It has been a great sunspot group indeed. And that one would be visible to the naked eye if you've got something like solar shades. Anyway, let's continue on to our meteorology segment. There's the full disk rock back. And in meteorology, we're looking at temperature. So here's what we're starting out with. We're starting out with temperature. There's the hottest place in the world, almost 110 degrees there in Central Africa. It's also pretty hot in India, but not quite 110 degrees. So I believe that's the hottest place in the world, and the coldest place in the world is negative 85.8 degrees as winter approaches. The highest, driest continent in the world, over 90 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit there at Antarctica. All right, let's break out the wind maps here and blast through the meteorology segment. We don't want the video to be too lengthy. So there are the surface winds. Keep in mind of this tropical cyclone, as it is still expected to strike Guam. These are the jet streams of the eastern world, jet streams of the Americas. Still pretty incoherent jet streams over the lower 48. Here are the surface winds. Those incoherent jet streams may cause some odd weather patterns. Here are the surface winds of the central world, and let's don't forget the jet streams. So there you go. Next, we'll take a look at a pressure map here. This is the windy.com pressure map. Mainly high pressure around the U.S., both on the Atlantic and Pacific and Canadian sides. Lower pressure off the coast and around Central America and the Caribbean. One of the great features there of windy.com, windy.com. Perhaps check out their mobile app. It is free. Next, clouds and fog over the Americas. That's 3.9 micrometer infrared radiation. If you're wondering how big those waves are, a micrometer is about 1/10 of a human hair. So 3.9 is, you're talking about 40% the diameter of a human hair are the size of those waves. It is infrared spectra. It depicts clouds and fog when it's too dark to use a visible satellite. Next, our weather.gov map. If your location is lit up, please click on your location at weather.gov. Not too many weather warnings here over the U.S. Alaska and Hawaii has some. We've also got some hydrologic outlook as snow continues to melt in an epic fashion. Next, we've got your 72-hour, wait a minute, is it 66-hour? 66-hour temperature anomaly forecast based on the GFS model. The 72-hour was not available when we did show prep, and I was too impatient to wait for it. So anyway, that's your temperature anomaly forecast in degrees Celsius. We'll also bring up your pressure and precipitation forecast, which is now available in 72-hour format. So we'll show that. There's your 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast. Some heavy storms there expected for Florida, and that low is just going to hang out and then circle back into South Carolina and Georgia. As you can see there, it'll be pretty stormy around the Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina Atlantic coasts. Again, that's your 72-hour GFS pressure and precipitation forecast. Next, your lightning mapper. This is what's been going on. Heavy lightning there, moving right across Texas into the Gulf. And do we have any current terrestrial strikes? Looks like lots. First of all, Missouri and Montana. Hey, Springfield, there's a thunderstorm to your north. Also Montana there. North of Billings, a rather strong thunderstorm there happening. Concentrated lightning there striking around just to the east of the Big Snowy Mountains Wilderness Study Area. Quite a strong storm there in Montana. And also in Texas, Abilene, seeing a little bit of thunderstorm activity. Anyway, those are the teeth of the storms. Check out lightningmaps.org next time you hear thunder. Perhaps convince the natives that you're Zeus or something like that. Today's featured product is currently being worn by me. Yeah, I don't wear those expensive sunglasses. I wear the cheap ones. And there they are. You can find them in our Amazon shop, which is linked below this video, as well as on the homepage at smashomash.com. The Retro Rewind translucent frame, colorful neon 80s, whatever. They look like Wayfarers. They aren't. They are cheap. Lots of other fashions there on the Amazon shop, like the latest Hawaiian shirt acquisitions. Today's featured product from Redbubble is Do Not Pole Vault the Caldera, our all-time top seller, I believe. Thanks to everybody who's picked up the merch. This is a great conversation starter, as Caldera pole vaulting has really gone out of style with the unfortunate and untimely demise of Steve Stimpak, depicted on the graphics there, pole vaulting a volcano. Please don't pole vault the volcano, as our finest days lie ahead. If you're going through hell, keep going. It's got the URL for the YouTube channel, as well as the smashomash.com website down at the bottom, and the great colorful graphics. It's a public service message brought to you at massive personal risk and expense from Smash staff and I. Pick up some merch, help support the channel that way, help us advertise. Tell your friends and foes about the content. And by all means, if you're going on a volcanic vacation, leave your vault pole at home. Don't pole vault the caldera. We'll close out the video with U.S. Doppler radar, clouds and fog over the lower 48, and water vapor. Some precipitation there in Alaska. Shout out to our viewers from all around the planet. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists thanks to our new subscribers. Frankly, we're surprised that you're able to see the videos. Here's the lower 48 U.S. Doppler radar. It shows vertical motion in the air column. Here is clouds and fog depicted by the 3.9 micrometer radiation satellite there. Part of the NASA GOES interactive weather satellite suite. Some large clouds there over East Texas. And here's the water vapor map. We've got a bunch of dry air there over the central U.S., places like Missouri and Iowa there, with a high-pressure zone above them. That dry mass of air there, an indication that this is high pressure. Anyway, here's your recap to close out this video. U.S. Doppler radar. Houston, you're in the crosshairs. There's a strong storm headed your way. Here is clouds and fog. And let's don't forget the water vapor. That is where we will close things out. This is me thanking you for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. I'm headed back to the bunker, and in the meantime, may that solar wind be at your back.